A colleague of mine is going to talk about getting more by doing less, the latest Zabbix usability improvement. So let's welcome Aleksandrs Petrovs-Gavrilovs.
Hello, my name is Alex, and I'm gonna introduce you today to the new possibilities of Zabbix. And not just possibilities, specifically usability improvements. And now you will learn how to do more while actually doing less. So let's talk about improvement overall. Zabbix has done a lot of things to improve your experience throughout the time. So we started doing Zabbix, well, quite some time ago. And one of the biggest noticeable updates began in 3.0 when there was introduced new comfortable web interface, trend prediction, improvements to the scheduling, to the low-level discoveries, and a lot more. Then, well, I would say not so long ago, the 4.0 came out with better integration options, compression for the data exchange, tag-based permissions, and, well, a lot more, including the Check Now button, which allowed you to actually check if your items work a lot faster. Then, well, I would say feels like just yesterday, the 5.0 came out, allowing you to actually test the items. Again, front-end usability got improved even more. And, well, we introduced a new Zabbix agent, so-called Zabbix Agent 2 or Zabbix Agent Go. And then, of course, the visual improvements that we are also going to see today. And 5.2. Now, this definitely feels like yesterday. So here we have even more improvements in user interface. We have now a possibility to actually do a diagnostic on our Zabbix without actually going and performing a lot of different queries. We also introduced HashiCorp Vault, and of course, again, usability improvements. So as you can see, Zabbix always improves and improves, I would say, even faster with each passing day. So to remind you how fast it's actually happening, well, LTS release basically was just half a year ago, and that was a really quick new improvement and new version release. And now you are already standing on the edge of 5.2. That means basically already 6 months passed, and well, in 6 months more, you will have 5.4 and then a new LTS release. We are doing everything we can to make sure that all the releases are getting to you as fast as possible. And, well, make sure to use all those features as fast as you need, since, again, we are there for you to help you understand how to use them if maybe something is not that clear. So, again, why upgrading is important? Well, you get more stability, you get more security, your Zabbix performs better, and, of course, the new features. And what is all of that? Improvement. It is improvement in usability too, in one way or another. Doesn't matter how you look at it. So let's take a look at, well, the current LTS release and see how the front-end usability got improved. So what do we see right here? We see navigation revamp. It got a lot better, so now you can make it always visible. Or you can use a compact view to make sure you see more of the information, less of the menu. Or other way around, you can even hide the menu completely without obstructing the view to the dashboards or any other information that you might be looking right now. So now we actually introduced a new menu, which is located in the monitoring hosts section. So what can we actually see there? We can see a lot. We can see a list of our hosts, and we can even click on them and go to their configuration or maybe see some specific real-time data. We can see the main interface, of course. We can see the status and the availability of the host. We can see the list of the problems and their severity. And of course, we can see if the host is enabled, or we can just go and, well, check some latest data, including not just the actual data, but even the current problems that are affecting this specific host, making navigation much faster and getting to the, let's say, root issue, or just to the important data as fast as it is really possible. So what else? Well, there's a lot coming out from that menu. So we have easy navigation to monitor the data. Well, you can also see list of unresolved tags, including tags inherited from templates. Of course, just as you saw, the colorized number of problems by severity, and a lot more information. That's not all. Remember when some time ago you actually had to define SNMP related settings for each item separately? Well, now it's a bit different. And now you can define SNMP authentication directly on the host interface level. Simply by just clicking on Add SNMP interface, you can select use bulk request or not. You can, of course, select what specific protocol version you will be using, starting with 1, finishing with 3, and of course, including 2. And if we're talking about SNMP version 3, well, all the encryption options are there. So no more defining on each item. For example, if you use the correct community name, everything is in one place, clearly seen, faster to adjust. For example, all the existing macros that are supported in the SNMP attributes will also continue to be supported. And if you use network discovery to actually find those SNMP interfaces, well, all the SNMP attributes inherited from them will be also passed further. What else? You can actually now test the items directly from the front end. So no more absolute necessity to actually go to the command line, for example, and execute, let's say, Zabbix_agent or Zabbix get. You can do that right from the front end. You can do that for all the passive items, and there's a lot of them. So the Zabbix agent type, SNMP type, external checks, database monitoring, and so on. You can select, for example, what interface you will use, and even what proxy. And if, let's say, host is already monitored by some proxy, it will be automatically pre-selected for you. For template, of course, you can select each of those settings individually. Something will fail, you will see an error with description, and of course, well, you will see even the pre-processing steps over there. So how does that look like? We go to the item configuration and click on the test button right before us. As soon as it's clicked, you will see a pop-up window that actually allows you to do things. What things? Well, first specify where do you want to get the value from. Do you want to get it from the host? Or maybe you want to just type in your own value and see how the pre-processing steps will react depending on what exactly this value is. But, well, not always want to test the pre-processing right here. Most of the times we want to test the actual host and, well, if it's reachable. So we can define the host address. We can, of course, define also the port. Select a proxy from the list of proxies that we currently have in our Zabbix. Or again, not select a proxy if this is a host reachable by Zabbix, and click on the get value to actually get the value. But with this, you will only get the value. If you want to test the pre-processing steps, click on the get value and test, and you will see the full result with all the description and what you will basically receive in the end. Simple, and of course, saving you a lot of time without actually trying to understand if something works or not. Remember all your secrets. There's a whole, well, presentation actually today about the secrets. Well, as you already know, you can mask them. Mask them quite simply. Just go to the macros, maybe on the host level, template level, global level. Type in the macro. So let's say a username. And, well, of course, if there's a username, there is a password. So we're typing them in. We type in the value of the username. Well, username usually not kept in secret, so we can show it, for example, if we really wish. And let's type in the password. Hey, no, not like that. We will keep this password hidden. So we will select secret text. And now we will just type it in, and nobody, even behind our back, will see what exactly are we typing in. And you know what? We can even hide the login to make sure that no information is visible from, well, anywhere. There's more to that, but you will hear about that today later. So in 5.0, there were actually 2 ways. Now there are 3 ways, but those ways are, again, to keep the macro is just a text macro. plain open text value everybody can see. Well, of course, who has the permissions. A secret, so just seeing the plain old dots, and the vault secret when they are kept in the wall. But again, vault secret, that's something from 5.2. So remember that. Then we have another feature which was introduced also in 5.0, the low-level discovery overrides. So what are those overrides? There's actually quite a lot. There's a new tab that's called, you guessed it, overrides, where you can specify something. So you click on that, the pop-up pops up, you type in the name of that specific override you wanted to create. You define some low-level discovery macro, which will basically be in the filter, and you will define what exactly you want to find with the help of that filter. And then you define the operations that will be executed with the help of the overrides. There's a lot of them. So there's item prototypes, trigger prototypes. There's also graph prototypes, host prototypes, and all of them have their own specific sub options to do something. And not just those options, they actually have conditions. So for example, if something that was found with the help of the filter, if there's multiple values possible, is found, you can do something with it. You can change its update interval. You can define will it be discovered or not, or for example, define a specific different storage period. You don't need to define something one. You can use multiple operations, multiple conditions, and of course, multiple steps overall, including just to stop processing completely and not continue forward with the discovery. So again, decide what objects are and will be created. Overrides will be applied based on the filter and what is found in that filter. And of course, Zabbix server, this is important, will process overrides one by one, respecting the sort order. And all of the conditions, there's a big list. I won't go through all of it, but you can see right now, you can specify objects, you can specify different operators, patterns to match the items. You can define different types of actions, item-related actions like create item, do not create item, create enabled, create disabled. Basically, the same goes, well, not the same, but quite close for the triggers, graphs, and of course, for the host. So you can, again, create, do not create, disable, blink something, change history keeping, and so on and so on. So absolute individuality while talking about discovery of multiple items. User macros are now also supported for the host prototypes with the same possibilities as in any other levels. So, for example, you can display list. You will see, and it will be displayed the list of the macros that you created. So the user macros, of course. And if some of them are actually inherited from, let's say, global level or template level, they will be also visible right here. What else? Well, since we got so much new going on for the discovery rules, there's also now a filter for discovery rules. So you can see, let's say, discovery rules from different hosts all at once. Well, you select, of course, will be that a host group or a list of hosts. Then you can, let's say, type in a name just to check how many of your hosts are actually using this discovery rule and find easier what you might need to change for each discovery rule for all of those devices. Clone and copy widgets, finally. And you don't need to create, let's say, or make your users create dashboards for themselves just from the scratch each time. Now it's much simpler. They can just, well, not just copy your entire dashboard, but they of course can do that. They can actually copy widgets, not just on the same dashboard. They can actually copy them from the different ones. So let's say you like a widget. You just go click on those three dots and click on the copy. Then you go to all of the dashboards, select another one which is missing something clearly, and click on the paste the widget. As you can see, it will be pasted just as it was. Then adjust it a bit to your dashboard and there it is. Save the changes, and well, you have an updated dashboard with a few simple clicks. No need to waste time and, let's say, keep multiple tabs to check if the widget settings are absolutely the same between the dashboards. And you can copy them, again, not only when you are editing the dashboards, you can just look at the dashboard and copy them. If a user has only read permissions, not a problem. He can still copy the widget and paste it again on his own dashboard in the first available space or in a specific selected area. If there's a lot of widgets and he maybe doesn't like any particular one, he can replace it with the widget that he actually just copied. And as you saw, widgets dimensions also will be copied. Hey, finally, you can also unacknowledge events. So let's say somebody saw a problem and said, hey, I want to solve this problem. So I will acknowledge it and I will leave a comment, something like, I see that, I will solve it. But then like, hey, oops, it was a wrong problem. I cannot solve it. So I will unacknowledge it with leaving, of course, a comment like, sorry, I actually misclicked. I wanted to solve something else. And the problem will be unacknowledged back. Of course, you will be notified about both of the actions if you have operations based on acknowledgement of the problem. What else? Mass update of user macros for hosts and templates. Well, that's quite simple. You can now select multiple hosts or multiple templates and, for example, add, update, or remove one or more user macros for all of them. Other way around, you can update maybe some of the values to actually change them for different groups of hosts, or again, replace them with something else, which is quite useful, especially if, for example, you have a specific user for different types of hosts and you need to change login and password for different groups. So that's about it for 5.0. There's actually quite a lot, and well, it looks kind of, hey, that was fast. No, it's not. When you go deeper into that, you will find that those are very strong features that will make your life and working with Zabbix, configuring Zabbix, a lot faster and a lot easier. So what do we have now in 5.2? Finally, we have pre-made filters for problems and hosts, and they are as simple as effective. So you have a lot of hosts, but of course you want to see something specific right now. Let's say the database host. You don't want to each time to type in DB host and now I want to see them. Then now you can create a filter and, for example, specify that you want to see how many results were actually found. And there you go. As you can see on the tab level, you see the name of the tab, you see those are DB servers, and there's actually 6 of them. Want another one? Want to see all your non-working IBM devices or not reachable, like in this case? Absolutely possible. Just, again, create a new filter, save it, rename it, and, for example, don't show the number this time. And then you will have all of those tabs right in front of your eyes, and you can just change what you see with a couple of simple clicks. And that's possible not only for the host, but for the problems too. And then you can, of course, specify that you want to see the number of problems that is currently happening. You can specify the time period in which filter will look for the problems you are looking for usually. And see whatever you need to see. And there's a lot more. Again, tabs can be easily renamed, and you can even have the same names too. So if maybe different users have different filters for them, for the content they want to see, they can do that. They can reorder them using drag and drop. So if you want to prioritize something over other filter, you can just rearrange them. Some filtering cannot be applied. For example, user has no permissions. Well, it will reset to a default value, and he won't even know how many problems are there for this, let's say, host group, or how many hosts are in that group. He will see just a default window with default search results as you see it. And of course, all tab titles display the following real-time information: problems, number of filtered problems, hosts? Well, number of filtered hosts. Maintenance creation. Remember the times when you had 3 tabs that you actually needed to click to actually create a maintenance? Well, say no more. Now you can simply just go to the maintenance and see one simple maintenance creation screen. So if you have a server that is suddenly in need of a maintenance, well, you won't need to do a lot of clicks. Just go to maintenance, create a maintenance, and that's it. You can run to fix this specific device. Indication for settings in use. Remember the times when you might have just need to remember to click on a specific tab to see if it's in use, if something is there, is somebody added something there. Well, now you don't need to click specifically. Now you can actually see an indication of what exactly is going on under each tab. So you can see a number, for example, of how many options are there, how many templates are linked, how many tags are created, how many macros was added. Uh, you can see a green indicator if settings are not default. So let's say inventory is disabled by default, but somebody enabled it. Well, or you will see that by a green indicator. You will see that something is not as usual there, and you will be able to go and check. And that means pre-processing too. So now if you open an item, again, you don't need to guess. You don't need to worry that you might forget to check the pre-processing tab. You will see the number indication right there, and you will see how many, if any, of course, pre-processing steps were added to that item, and you will be absolutely sure that you haven't missed anything while you were checking. Let's say, why does item suddenly stop returning the values as I usually saw them? Remember that we said that screens someday are gonna be gone? Well, they are getting close to that. So now you don't have, as you saw in the hosts, the menu called screens. Now you have dashboards. And that means creation of each host or a templated uh, dashboard will now be an absolute pleasant exercise of just putting what you want to see about this host specifically by just dragging, dropping, creating, and resizing, not having a table to actually to edit. Remember, there was a term dummy host. Well, say no more. Now you can actually create hosts without interfaces, without so-called dummy hosts with dummy interfaces, and execute different kinds of checks for them, which do not require agent, SNMP interface, or any other interface. Like, let's say, for example, for the web checks. What else can you use them for? Well, for chopper-based monitoring. As you remember, for active checks, most of the time you need specifically the host name. And, well, you can use only host name without any interfaces. Or maybe you have a host that is created for aggregated items. No more local host. Again, empty interface, and create your aggregated items over there. Feeling absolutely fine without an interface on a host. And that means no more interfaces, not just for hosts, but for host prototypes too. Host prototypes can now actually have an option to either inherit the interface from the host they are discovered on, or you can make it something custom and type in or create the interface that you want to see there. That's not all for host prototypes. You can actually now create tags for host prototypes, again, to make sure the navigation is your Zabbix, the definition on what exactly and where exactly those created hosts are located is seen as soon as you basically, as Zabbix well, basically creates a discovered host for you. So different data centers, different instances, different resources, you will see it in the tags just after the host is discovered. User macro, now it got much, much bigger. There was a time when it was actually limited to 512 symbols. Again, not anymore. And well, in those times, there was a possibility that you had an actual URL that was as long as you can imagine. 600 symbols, 700, 1,000. That was an absolute possibility. and you couldn't actually put them behind a macro, and well, the URL field was also limited. So you need to have a workaround about that, and you needed to actually create multiple macros and put part of the URLs to make sure the full URL will be passed. And again, not anymore. Just use your usual one macro with this long URL to make sure that your HTTP agent items or your web checks are working without any workarounds. User macro in description. There was again a time when it wasn't that clearly seen. So as you see an example right here, you went to the latest data page, you hovered over the question mark, and you saw, hey, the result of user macro check. Now, if you define something for that user macro, you will see the result being shown to you. So you will see what is behind that macro right there where you actually defined it. Export got updated. So just not so long ago, you need to export it, everything that you saw specifically in the XML format, which was a bit clunky, but we all know our way around it, and well, we all knew how to do things fast. Now we do support YAML and JSON, so no more tags, XML tags that will confuse you from time to time, and no more not really readable formats while well actually being readable. Now you will see a clean format which will be easier to keep as a stored configuration and which will be easier to edit even by hand. And again, if you use JSON a lot, well, you can export it in JSON and maybe then reuse it in some other software, for example, again, as for export and import too. That's not all of the changes. Front-end installation and configuration also has been updated. So now you can actually, and you need to actually select a language as soon as you start the installation of the front end. So you just go hover over default language and whatever is available, and you will clearly see if all the languages that you need are available are there, and you will be able to select the default one that will be there for everyone who works with the Zabbix. What else? Time zone. So now you can specify default time zone for your Zabbix. And there's quite a huge list of what you can specify. So no matter where you are with your Zabbix, you most certainly will be able to find your country, your city there. And if you're a fan of Dark Theme, hey, you can install your Zabbix in the Dark Theme as soon as you actually start. You won't need to go to the graphical user interface settings to change that after the installation. And well, if one of your users actually needs to work with Zabbix in different language and is located in some other country, he will be able to select a time zone for him, so he will understand better what exactly is happening in relation to his time and, of course, the time where the Zabbix is located. GUI settings were revamped, so there are less options now, and they're not so, I would say, too much clicking requiring. So now working time settings are actually moved to the graphical user interface menu. Trigger menus are now united, and more experience enhancing options actually added. So what are those? Working hours field. If you actually didn't notice working hours field before, well, let me break it to you. Working time is displayed as a white background in the graphs, and the gray background means it's non-working time. So it helps you to actually understand, like for example, how load of your environment changes when everybody is in place and working, and where everybody, for example, is sleeping at home. New parameters: max number of columns and rows in overview tables. You can now define should anyone except Zabbix superadmin show the technical errors in the front end, saving maybe less experienced user from a small heart attack when they see an error they have never seen before. So front end GUI settings were now changed, and they do have more options now. So working time that was previously a separate submenu is now in the GUI settings. And in case you didn't know what's the working time, let me break it to you. Working time is displayed as a white background in the graphs. And non-working time is displayed in gray color, so you can actually easier understand how your environment is loaded in the working hours and in non-working hours. Plus, max number of columns and rows in the overview tables was added. Now you can actually specify if anyone except Zabbix super admin will be able to see technical errors and have that mini heart attack. Now you can hide it from them, keeping them calm and well working with Zabbix pleasantly. You can also define max history display period, so default period for graphs and dashboards, and of course the max period. So when you open that graph or a dashboard, so you won't have to look at, let's say, 3 years of information from scratch. You will see only what you want to see now, and you will see as far in the past as well. It's actually useful to look at. And then the front end trigger displaying. So here's everything's quite simple. Trigger displaying options and trigger severities are now united, and they are again now in a single click reach from you. And that basically means you will never forget to change something. You will see all the settings right in front of your eyes. Plus the front end other. Remember, it had just a couple of options. Now, well, you have a lot of fields to select from. So there are 3 additional parameters grouped to summarize. Now you can specify settings about authorization, which allow you to set how many failed login attempts a user should make to get actually logged out from the system. Security, which allows you to specify the URI scheme validation rules, like look for HTTP or HTTPS or FTP and so on, to make sure that those will be absolutely correctly used and written. And of course, settings about the communication with Zabbix server, which allow you to customize, for example, the timeout limits, making sure that you won't see a warning about something not being reachable while it was just a sudden delay in the connection. So that's already a lot, but we always need more, and we always want to give you a possibility to get more from your Zabbix. And you can actually help us to make Zabbix better. How can you do that? Well, if you find any kind of bug, please report it. We will do our best to fix it as soon as possible. You see something that's absolutely needed in Zabbix, and that feature is unfortunately missing, and let's say we don't even got our hands on it yet. Well, create a feature request, involve people around you to make sure they vote for it, so we get introduced to the Zabbix as fast as possible. Want to get that feature even faster? Don't forget to contact our team, and we will be happy to provide you with additional integration options, or let's say some specific even templates just for the use not only of you, but for the community too. And of course, you can also always create your own modules, create your own templates to share with the community. We will always be very thankful to you for that, and we will be always gladly there to assist you in creation of those. Thank you.
So Aleksandrs is here with us to answer a couple of questions about some of the new features, changes, maybe some things that we want or expect to change in the future. So let's go. Let me ask him some of the questions from our community. So are there any plans to implement some new widgets for our dashboards?
There actually are, and if you're curious about them, I would recommend to go on our roadmap page. You would find some of them. There are some ideas, but no precise information yet, but we're thinking on how exactly and what exactly we're going to do with them.
Okay, so another question about visualization. So I keep hearing about screens going away at some point, though it kind of seems to be getting delayed all the time. Is that still a thing? Are we keeping screens? Are they being removed, or how's that looking?
Well, you already saw in the presentation that they are gone, for example, from the templates themselves. And of course, in 5.4, they will be gone completely. So no more screens, only beautiful dashboards with easy drag and drop creation.
All right. What about monitoring graphs? That section is gone. Maybe confusing for some people. Is it coming back? Is it gone for good?
Well, I know we all know not the thing. It's not really gone completely. You can still find it in monitoring host and go to the graphs and filter through all the graphs.
Yes, but that's some extra clicks and so on.
Yes, so now we are thinking about maybe even returning it back, but that's not really like a precise answer how it will gonna be, but we are thinking about how we can implement it back to make it still comfortable and easy to reach.
All right, so I've been talking mostly about UI and visualization. Maybe you have something to add that I missed or you missed in the presentation.
Well, we actually, we use tags already in a lot of places, but we actually plan to replace applications, and I hope you do remember what application is, with the tags and, well, make search and actually dividing what you see and what you find, again, easier depending just on the tags.
Oh, that's a really large change, actually, removing applications while replacing them with tags. So, wow, I'd like to see how that looks in practice. All right, thank you a lot for answering my questions.